Welcome back to LA Fishguys, the continuing saga of Scott's big 500-gallon aquarium. We've just arrived to find that he's already pulled the wet-dry trickle filter out of the system. He's actually removed the entire filter system, and he's had the tank turned off since early this morning. We need to jump in and give him a hand. Here's the inlets for the first reservoir. We're now going to take and slide the second reservoir in underneath the cabinet. These units are large, about 30 inches by 30 inches for the first and 30 inches by 40 inches for the second reservoir. Both units standing 16 inches tall. And with both units slid in position now, you can see just how large a filter system this actually is. And so without waiting around, we'll start on the plumbing, starting at the beginning, the inlet side. Those are the two drain hoses coming out of the underside of the tank. They'll pass into Scott's pre-filter chambers. This first reservoir is where the live rock is located. It passes between these three bulkheads, two of which allow the water to pass into the second reservoir. The third there is one that actually is an inlet for one of the water pumps in the system. Here we're using a straight edge screwdriver and a hammer to gently tap the collar or the threaded nut portion of the bulkheads tight against the gasket. With that bulkhead now securely in position, we can now place in the 4,500 gallon an hour filter circulation pump. This is the water pump that'll draw the water from the filter system, sending it back up to the tank, and then via the internal overflow, it'll fall back down into this filter system again. So this we'll call filter circulation. And since there are actually two reservoirs, Scott's got this unit rigged up with two intakes, one that draws from the first sump as well as a second one that draws from the second sump. And a portion of the water discharged by that pump actually passes outside to a refrigeration unit and then returns back into the sump again. Here's the second water pump. This one we'll call the internal circulation water pump. This one does 6,300 gallons an hour. It will draw directly from the tank and it'll return directly to the tank. Here we're working on the inlet portion of the circulation pump. And the one behind it is the filter circulation pump, and we're working on the discharge end of that as well. This connects to the underside of the tank. The lines run up through the internal overflow and then poke out just underneath the water's surface and discharge directly into the tank. And here we're drilling a hole through the drywall. This will be for the discharge side of the internal circulation water pump as it works its way back up to the top of the tank where it'll ultimately connect to those sea swirl units. Those are oscillating discharge nozzles that'll help create a very random or chaotic flow in the system.
Welcome to my nightmare. It's been a long day, a lot of progress. We got the new sumps in. This is our main sump where the water comes into. Got our filter sock tray here, one of them. Filter sock tray goes into its little spot there. The water will come in through these little pipes here into these overflows and overflow into the filter socks. We've got our live rock in here. Feel it. Protein skimmer will sit here. Another sock tray goes here. Water will go from here into the refugium here. We'll have about 100 pounds of mud, probably end up needing more than that. Some mangroves, chaeto. Water will flow in through here comes out through these vents here, and will travel across the refugium, go out through the back, where it'll get picked up by the return pump and sent to our sea swirls up above. And then we've got another pump here, which is actually a recirculation pump. It draws from the back of the tank and returns back in through the bottom of the overflow to a spray bar around the base of the overflow under the rocks to keep the detritus out. Haven't got the wiring cleaned up, but we've got our aqua controller Apex set up here. So these are the little brains for the Apex. Our power bar is over here. Of course, like I said, I got to clean up a lot of wiring. That'll be a project for tomorrow. I'm going to need rest tonight after we get this done.
And now with all the plumbing secured, it's time to start adding the mud. And that means adding the mud.
Here we got our mud. Mud and rubble. It's basically the bottom of the barrel from Fiji rock. Oh, looks like we got enough.
Cat litter box.
This layer of fine sediment and mud will provide a foundation for various plants and algae to grow out of. It'll also become an area that's low in oxygen, thus reversing the nitrogen process and eliminating nitrate. Or at least that's what it's supposed to.
So we're patting it down. Guess the theory is it'll help keep the stuff from getting caught up in the water column.
On top of the mud, Scott will also introduce small pieces of live rock as well as a layer of live sand.
All right, let's get some live rock in here. We got our barrel of what's left of our live rock.
These pieces are a little on the big side, but the fact that they came from an established system and need to be reintroduced into the system, we'll go ahead and use them temporarily and then pursue coral rubble or some live sand to place on top of this at a later time.
Our bio balls from the old filter, we're going to put these in the filter socks to help ensure we don't take all the filtration out of the system. We'll remove them down the line.
We've saved the existing bio balls with the bacteria that's already established within them. We're going to place them in those micron socks temporarily until the system completely comes back online. The idea here being that we can reintroduce some of the biological filtration aspects back to this new system, thus trying to avoid an ammonia and nitrite spike. It's getting late, but with the addition of the protein skimmer, Scott instructs me to start getting the water from the 100-gallon container out in the van running so we can begin to fill up the tank. And as the tank slowly fills up, that water begins to pass into the internal overflow, draining down into the pre-filter sections of Scott's new filter system.
Target water levels.
And as more and more water begin to spill into the filter system, the water level begins to rise higher and higher. We begin to start checking for leaks and drips of any one of the 83 pipe connections that he has. We also begin to get an idea as to how the flow of water is actually going to start working through the system. Here you can see the refugium side of it beginning to fill up with water. This is almost a horizontal raceway as the water will move from one side of this second reservoir across to the other side, where ultimately it'll be picked up by that filter circulation water pump and then sent up through the underside of the tank via these discharge lines. And without any warning, Scott plugs in that filter circulation water pump. Now we've got water 4,500 gallons an hour being pumped back up to the top of the tank, plus the water that I've got pumped from my sump pump out in the van into the tank. As the water level begins to rise quickly in the filter, what's beginning to make me nervous is all the water draining from the tank is going into this one overflow. It looks like it's going to overflow itself.
Hey, you need to valve it down. It's going to start overflowing in your first overflow chamber. You're going to get a chance to test out your new pond liner.